Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Our focus today is on the United Way, specifically the United Way of Southwest Missouri, Southeast Kansas. And it's that time of year where individuals and companies are pitching in to help others. And joining me, we have Duane Dreiling. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I know we've had a chance to visit in previous years, and today I'd like to provide an update as well as some new approaches to the United Way. But maybe we need to start off with just some nuts and bolts for the audience as far as when we say the United Way, Southwest Missouri, Southeast Kansas, what area are we talking about? Try to describe that for us.
Sure. So we are United Way of Southwest Missouri and Southeast Kansas, which means we cover Jasper-Newton County on the Missouri side, and then on the Kansas side, we cover Crawford, Cherokee, and this last year we brought on Labette County as well. Labette County had a small United Way that was ran by some volunteers, and those volunteers kind of wanted to retire, and so they kind of disbanded. And we had a real outreach from not just the agencies that were getting United Way funding, but people that wanted to, hey, we've always supported United Way. How do we do that? And so the way the United Way system works is when there's a void in an area, they look at surrounding United Ways and they actually assign zip codes. And so all of the zip codes in Labette County were assigned to United Way of Southwest Missouri and Southeast Kansas. So we work with a couple of new agencies over there, the Labette Assistance Center and the Labette Meals on Wheels, and provide some funding and primarily work with our national companies over in Labette County. But those are the 5 counties that officially make up United Way of Southwest Missouri and Southeast Kansas.
Right. And of course you mentioned the word national. People hear United Way, maybe they watch a football game and see it. There's a big national umbrella, but you're still talking about local jurisdiction, local control.
Absolutely. So we are a local United Way. We are our own 501c3. We have our own board of directors, and we are very much an independent organization. The beauty of United Way is that because we're our local organization, those decisions of what we fund are made locally. And so what's important to our communities, or what are those critical issues facing our community, whether it be poverty or homelessness or domestic violence, whatever those we feel are important in our community, that's where we're able to invest funds to affect community change. I say it's the beauty, that means that maybe a United Way in California has different issues. Maybe, maybe it's not poverty. Maybe it's something else that they want to work on. And so being an independent United Way really allows us to invest those funds that makes sense in our community. And so, yes, we are very much. The other part is that being part of United Way worldwide, that does give us access to a lot of marketing materials, just that national branding network. Another benefit of being part of that United Way Worldwide network is so many of our national companies will do big nationwide campaigns or even worldwide campaigns, and then they'll funnel, rather than that company paying out to 1,600 United Ways, they'll pay out to United Way Worldwide, and then they will process it and send it to us.
So then it gets to the community which that company is located. Then it gets to the community.
So if somebody's working at Walmart or UPS and they give to United Way, we're going to get that report from United Way Worldwide. And it's a great service to that company, so that those big national companies don't have to have relationships with 1,600 different United Ways all across the nation.
Right. So a lot of working together. And people might be curious, you mentioned new organizations or agencies in Labette County. How many overall agencies do we have in this region?
We fund 38 agencies, but more importantly, we fund nearly 50 programs within those agencies. About 6 years ago, we made the shift from funding agencies to funding programs because we really want to make sure that the donor knows that their dollars get to the clients. They don't want to just fund an agency. They want to make sure that's funding programs that are providing services to clients that are needing that help. And so 50 programs throughout the five county area.
Right. I recall that interview from the past. We were talking about we're program based versus just here's money to an agency. Now this year you're taking another approach to funding. It's kind of refining it a little bit more?
We are refining it. The application, well, first of all, I guess talk about this year's campaign. We did kick off our campaign this last year, and the theme for this year's campaign is we are the game changers, we are the hand raisers. And I really think that speaks true to what we do at United Way. We really are the game changers when it comes to impacting people's lives and improving people's lives. And so I think that game changer really is what stands out to me. The second part of that is we are the hand raisers. And what that speaks to is when people give to United Way, we accept responsibility. You know, we accept that, take that charge from them to invest those funds into the community to have the greatest impact. So we accept that responsibility, and we take that responsibility very seriously. And how do we get those funds back out to the community? I know we can talk a little bit more about that process. You talked about, and in this last year, we kind of talked about those programs. And you know, last year we funded programs that fit our three pillar areas of education, health, and financial stability, and had a lot of great impact through those agencies. Whether that be in education, our work with the Boys and Girls Club, or the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, Family Resource Center in Pittsburgh, all those agencies that are really building that education, Joplin Naylor Reed, all those agencies. In the health pillar, it's our work with the community clinic of Joplin, of Southwest Missouri. It's also, a lot of times people think, well, United Way is just there for a handout, or, you know, those people that are in crisis situation. And we do. We work a lot, and we try to help people through crisis situations, but we also try to do preventative programs.
So before something happens, right?
So through our work with the Joplin Family Y and the Pittsburgh Family Y, you know, we're making sure that people have access to a healthy lifestyle, and so hopefully they're staying active so they don't have to have the needs of some of those other health programs. And then finally, in financial stability, and this is where I talk more about those crisis intervention programs, making sure that people have food on the table. It's our work with Crosslines and Wesley House and those agencies that have food pantries, also in Salvation Armies in both communities, making sure that we have access to, you know, and again, it may have been a crisis. Maybe that family had a medical crisis and they're not able to pay their utilities or their rent.
It affects all their finances, right?
You know, they've got medical bills and it's a one-time deal. Well, we fund programs that make sure that we can address those needs and get those people back up on their feet. While not directly funded, it's also our work in financial stability through the Circles program, and how we are building, again, is that we want to be preventative or proactive in addressing poverty. And so we'll work with individuals and building up their soft and hard skills so that they can find and maintain employment and strengthen their financial position. And it's a great program as well. Right. So going into this next year, you kind of asked about, and through our PowerPoint slide, it more identifies where we're going to go. The board of directors at United Way really went through some strategic planning this last year. Over 2 months ago, we adopted this new program. The 4 months, but we really went through some hard discussions about, okay, we want to make sure that we are really having an impact. So we are going to, using the funds that are raised in this next year's campaign, we're going to get even more focused in on some bullet points under those three pillars of education, health, and financial stability.
So this is where you talk about the new community impact funding model,
Exactly.
And we have the PowerPoint pointing out some of those points. That it's, you know, it looks like it definitely has a plan that you have. You know, your retreats and your planning put into a lot of work.
And I want the community to know that, you know, if they're giving to United Way, this is how those funds are going to be invested into the community. So in education. We're going to ask the agencies. Again, we're working with our partner agencies because they are our
existing
partners.
Agencies already doing things in the community.
Yeah, and so we're going to work with those agencies, and we want to look at programs that are increasing school readiness. Right. So kindergarten readiness, how are we strengthening skills so that kids are ready emotionally, physically, and educationally ready to learn. Third grade reading levels, and successful transition into and out of middle school. As I talk to educators, they say those are three indicators for academic success.
So starting off strong and continuing that.
Yeah, and those third grade reading levels, there are so many studies that really talk about those third grade reading levels indicate the success, because if they fall behind by third grade, they're less likely to successfully make it to graduation. And so that's why we're going to focus in on those three key areas. So we're going to promote education through that area. In our other pillar area of, and I have to refer to in our health pillar, we're going to promote healthy lifestyles through programs that promote a healthy lifestyle, eat well, and are physically active. Obviously, avoid substance abuse, have access to physical and dental health, and then finally, also looking at programs that will meet the needs of those facing immediate, what I call family violence crisis. So it's our programs with Lafayette House and Safe House Crisis Center, those domestic violence. So basically, individuals that are facing imminent domestic violence, child abuse and neglect, or sexual assault. And so really focusing in on those areas so that we're make sure that we're meeting the needs. And then finally...
Go ahead. I was going to say, so the health, you have some specific areas of health that you're talking about.
Absolutely. Right. So we want to live a healthy lifestyle, but we know that health of the community, so when we talk about those other issues, the domestic violence, the substance abuse, that's really more of an overall community health.
Right.
We want the community to be healthy.
It's affecting individuals, but it also affects the community as a whole.
Absolutely. It affects the city. It affects, people wanting to move to the community. So we want a very healthy community. And so that's why it's important that we also fund those programs as well. Right. Finally, in the financial stability pillar, we're going to be looking at, and this is probably where we see the biggest change in what United Way is working on. And we've always done, I mentioned earlier our work with Crosslines and Wesley House and those agencies, Salvation Army. And that's important that we continue to fund those programs to provide that assistance. But we're also going to look at programs that are aimed at increasing employment skills. How do we improve the workforce development so that maybe now they can get a job instead of a 8 or 9 hour an hour job. Maybe they can get through some enhanced skills. They can get a $12 to $15 an hour job.
To increase their
so
quality.
we're solving that problem before it gets to us, so that people don't have to go to the food pantry or need help with rent and utility assistance. So the other difference, and we fund a little bit, but we probably want to get a little bit more focused in financial literacy. We know, and I don't need a community needs assessment to tell me that we have poverty in our community. One of the things that came out in the scorecard, and I think it's pretty close to the same between Jasper and Newton and Crawford and Cherokee County, 22 to 23% of youth living under the age of 18 are living in poverty.
So that's a pretty large percentage of people.
We're pretty high on that level when you compare to other counties of the respective states. And so we really want to start to look at how do we increase financial literacy and have families start to build for the future and have a sustainable income. And so that's where we're going to kind of expand our work into making sure that people can find and keep good employment and suitable housing.
Right, so employment, housing, having that stability in their life.
Absolutely.
Is part of that perhaps educational efforts as well, as far as education on what is the right way to handle financial matters?
And it's kind of what we talk about with our Circles program. And I know I've talked to other agencies, and they see the same thing, that when people are living in poverty, usually the only other people they know are other people living in poverty.
Facing the same challenge.
And they're facing the same challenge. So how do you ever break out of that cycle? And so giving them the resources to reach out, and that social capital to reach out into somebody and say, okay, I got my tax refund, because of the earned income tax credit, they get a pretty nice little check back, which is awesome. Okay, well, let's be responsible with that money, and rather than go buy something that we've been wanting, let's put it into a savings account and start building for the future. And so it's really just talking through those processes. You know, if the car breaks down and you know, you can't get to work unless you get this car fixed, well, let's not necessarily immediately think about going to a payday loan, because that's probably not the best solution for you.
Right.
You know, it's going to take a long time to get out from under that payday loan. So let's look, and it's building those networks and those social capital so that people living in poverty really have a chance to bridge their way out of the cycle that they're in.
It sounds like it affects people of all ages. Obviously, you're talking about the children who are affected, but it's the parents and the adults who have to maybe change their way to trickle down to the student.
And it really becomes a generational thing. If we can break that one cycle, the children coming up, and you know, that's why education, it all ties together. These are all parts of the building blocks of success. It's the education of that child, it's the health of that child. And now we're making the family stronger so that they can be successful down the road.
So you're talking about funding the agencies and working together, you know, with these types of programs. So when ABC agency turns to the United Way and say we'd like to have support, they need to have a plan of how are we going to fit into one of these categories.
That's right. And so, yes, and right now I'm having some great conversations with agencies about, okay, here's how I think. Now let's work through this. And it really is a partnership. This isn't a mandate from United Way. It's like, okay, these are the issues that we've identified. Now, how can we work together to address those issues? So, again, we'll ask the agencies to apply for funding that fit one of those critical issues that we've identified. And then we go through a process after they submit that application. And their application, we'll talk a little bit more about their outcomes and stuff, and how we're going to be more accountable to the community. But the process, so once we receive the application, usually through the months of January, February, or March, we talk about it being a local United Way and decisions are made locally. This is very much a volunteer-driven process. So if somebody gives to United Way, invests their time with United Way, then we invite them to be part of what we call the community investment process. We have 3 to 4, sometimes 5 community members that will go out to these 38 agencies.
So they'll visit them personally.
They go out and do a site visit. When they do that site visit, they'll see the program. They'll review their financial records. They'll look at their audits, their 990s, make sure they're in good standing, and then look at the program. And then they'll also measure look at what they're saying they're going to. So, for example, if we're going to increase third grade reading levels by X% over X amount of time, how are we going to get there? And so those outcome measurements are going to be a really big piece of this as well, because I think the donors want to know that they're making a difference. They don't want to just give to a program that's going to continue to maintain our level that we want to see change. And so those community investment panels are such a great experience, and I would encourage anybody, if they're interested in serving, we're always looking for volunteers.
A lot of people may be watching and say, well, can I get involved in finding out what's happening more close up?
And it's amazing. I have people that have served on a panel, maybe one agency, or maybe they've never done it before, and they go out to an agency and they'll come back to me and they go, oh my gosh, I just never even knew that was going on in our community. You know, I remember this last year we were at Lafayette House and they were talking about a very specific program. When the volunteers going, I would have never known that had I not been on this panel. And so it really gives them a firsthand look. And then also they go back and share that with their coworkers. What I'm trying to do is make sure that people, when they give to United Way, they know that their dollars are getting where the donor wants it to go. So they go through that process. They make their recommendations. They have a score sheet, and it's very laid out. They'll score the agency based on their financial piece, their program piece, their outcome model, and also how they collaborate with others in the community, because we know we don't solve problems in a vacuum.
Every agency's not isolated. They're working together probably in many cases.
In many cases. Families facing that crisis may also need the help of another agency, and so they really they work well together, but we also rate them on the collaboration. Those recommendations are then, this year for the first time, we're going to create an oversight committee in each one of those pillars. These are going to be oversight committees made up of individuals that have firsthand knowledge of what it really takes for income.
So
and
they know education, they know health, they know
so probably somebody from the
financials.
university that is in the education department, and so they're going to review those recommendations, and then they'll submit them to the board of directors for final approval for funding. So that's kind of the process that we'll be going through. One other thing that we're going to do a little bit different, significantly different, is for the first time, we're asking the agencies to give us quarterly outcome measurement reports.
Okay, so more than just once a year, tell us what you've done.
Exactly.
That's every 3
so,
months.
And I know the agencies do great work, but I don't think we ever have the opportunity to tell the story throughout the year of the great work that these agencies are doing. And so we're going to have them do a quarterly outcome measurement report that will be reviewed by that oversight committee.
Right.
And then submit it to the board, and then we will do a quarterly outcome measurement report card to the community saying, we said we are going to impact this many individuals in financial stability and do this work, and so here's our report
Here's
card.
what the agencies have said they have done with that money.
And so I think that gives more of that assurance to not only the communities but the donors that, wow, my dollars are really making a difference every single day. They just don't hear about it once a year.
Right. So it sounds like hearing about it, communication is really an increased effort, that it's more than, now United Way comes around every September, says it's time to give again. You're now getting out there every 3 months, you're going to say, here's what we're doing.
So we'll start that in, we'll do our final recommendations for funding in April, starting April 1st. So probably in July is when you'll start seeing the first community report card.
Right.
Because we'll have to have that first year. And again, working with our partner agencies, this first year may be about establishing some baselines, because we got to know where we are.
You're starting from scratch with this.
We're starting from scratch, and we got to know, what is the average here, and what can we expect in the future. And so it really is working together.
Right, so working together. You have your campaign underway as we're recording this, and so if people are watching, there's still many ways that people can give. You mentioned companies having contributions and campaigns and so forth.
Sure, there's many different ways, and the easiest is if your company does a workplace campaign. You can sign up for payroll deduction, do a one-time gift. I would just say that every little bit helps. If you can do payroll deduction, even if it's $1 or $2 a pay period, think about it. If you partner up with 100 of your coworkers or 50 of your coworkers that are also doing $1 a pay period or $2 a pay period, it really adds up. And so that's how we get to be the game changers. And so they can do that. They can also go to our website, and there's an opportunity to give through our website. They can even select Kansas or Missouri if they want to make sure that their dollars and
so they can match their specific community they live in.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that I didn't talk about when we were talking about our coverage areas. We have very specifically, when we merge together, funds raised in Kansas stay in Kansas, funds raised in Missouri stay in Missouri, because we know donors want to support their local communities. Right. We may be regional, but people in Joplin want to support programs
support the town
Joplin.
they live in. Right.
People in Pittsburgh want to make sure that they're funding programs that are addressing their fellow citizens. So we honor that and make sure that we do that. One thing that I might say, and so they can go to our website, they can call our office. We've got text to give options, but we can send them a number for a text to give. We also have we can do ACH transfers out of their.
So there's a lot of possible ways to give.
Lots of different ways to give. One thing that we're focusing in on even more this year is people say, well, why United Way? Why not just
write a check to that organization?
Right. Why not just write a check to that organization? And my response is, well, first of all, when you give to United Way, there's that oversight. You know that all good housekeeping seal has been placed on this agency and they meet all the thresholds. But more importantly, when you give to United Ways, you're funding programs that you're funding issues. You're solving issues that no one agency can solve. So we're taking a holistic approach to community improvement, community impact. And my example is, we have a young child he's in the education program. We're making sure that he's ready for kindergarten.
School.
Well, we also want that child to be living a healthy lifestyle and being active, and we don't want him sitting at home on a couch playing video games. So it's our work with WISE and the other programs, the Boys and Girls Club and those programs, to make sure that he's living a healthy lifestyle. And then finally, when we look at that financial stability piece, we don't want that child getting what he needs, education, but then going home to a household that is financially unstable. And so, is there enough food on the table? Do they have running water? So it really is. So when you give to United Way, it's that holistic approach. It's not just one agency. We're making sure that that one child is getting everything that he needs.
Tying them all together.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned your website. If people who are watching, give us the address, or how can they find you?
We are, the address is www.unitedway, spelled out Unitedway, Mokan, MOKAN.org.
Great.
And our phone number is 417-625-624-0153. And in the Pittsburgh office, it's... I'm sorry, I just lost that.
We can look up the Pittsburgh number and put it on the screen for people.
It's 620-231-8140. I knew I had it in my mind. I just drew a blank on that one.
Too many numbers to work with.
Yeah.
And do you also have like a Facebook page that keeps people updated as far as activities and things, social media?
And they can go to our Facebook page, look up United Way of Southwest Missouri and Southeast Kansas on Facebook, and that's where we post a lot of our events. We just this last year started something new. We had the Dine United, and so restaurants would donate a portion of their proceeds from the day to United Way, whether it be 15% or 20% of their food sales. And so we post a lot of that stuff on our Facebook page.
Great. Well, Duane, sounds like a lot going on. Of course, we've been talking campaign and funding, but I know year-round there's a lot happening with United Way. It's not just this time of year. You're busy in the office year-round.
And it kind of goes through their cycles. Right now, we're in that fundraising cycle. And then in January and February, we'll shift over to looking at how do we invest those funds in that process. And then once we get done with that, April and May, that time period, you're hitting summer, and that's a really good time for volunteering. And so we spend a lot of time making sure that we're matching resources up in the community, whether it be through our Day of Action, where we encourage volunteers to get active in their community and go out and volunteer at whether it be a United Way agency or another organization.
Do something back and helping
do something
personally.
So it's not just always about the monetary gift. It's about how can I give back to the community. And United Way is that resource for anyone in the community to just say, I want to get involved, I want to give back. How can I do that? Just call the United Way office.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to visit today and sharing some information with our audience.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. I'll see you again next week at the same time on this station.